There's been a lot of reporting, or maybe misreporting or misunderstanding, that this is a scaled down coronation. It's not. We've got the biggest military deployment in peacetime ever on the streets of London.
It's a first, something most of the country have never seen.
100 heads of state flying in from all around the world.
In recent times, this is the biggest event, twice the size of Her Majesty's funeral, so I think that probably gives an idea of the scale of this event.
This is something that's going to be watched around the world. People are going to be amazed by the footage, by the images. This needs to be a big, huge ceremonial event. So as this is a state and a religious event, members of the royal family do not have any major roles apart from the King and the Queen. The only two that do actually have a job, so to speak, is Prince William, who's now the heir. He will be the first person after the Archbishop of Canterbury to swear homage to the King, and also he will be on hand if ever needed to assist moving chairs, for instance. Princess Anne has been chosen a very vital role. She's actually going to be effectively the King's bodyguard on the route back from Westminster Abbey to Buckingham Palace. So Princess Anne's role is called the Gold Stick in Waiting, and it's a job only on the procession to protect the King from any danger on his route back. So Prince George is actually going to be the youngest ever future king to have a ceremonial role at a coronation. He's 9 years old. His parents, the Prince and Princess of Wales, were very keen to involve him, and there was a lot of talk behind the scenes about how they were actually going to provide a ceremonial role for our future king. So he's going to be one of 8 pages. His role will mainly be to support the King and Queen if they need a robe to be held or they need to be assisted in a certain way. But they'll be on TV, they'll be on screen, and the good thing about George is that when he grows up, he will have to do many more of these events when he's the future Prince of Wales and the future King. So this is a nice little easy way for him to be involved in the ceremony, to be watched by millions, but also he'll be surrounded by 7 other children of similar age that he can rely on and talk to and get support from during this 2-hour ceremony, where he may be asked to occasionally just help out the King and Queen if they need any assistance. King Charles's procession is going to be much shorter than his mother's. Queen Elizabeth II in 1953 was about 5 miles and it lasted 2 hours. There are several reasons for this. Overall, they have shortened the entire ceremony. I mean, it's 2023, maybe they believe the public have a shorter attention span, but they've reduced so many ceremonial elements that it's going to be a shorter and a more compact day. I think it's a shame because I think members of the public would like to see this wonderful spectacle and see the carriages go past. There is another reason I think that maybe in 2023 we cannot shut down the whole of London for 4 or 5 days. Back in 1953, it may have been easier to close the entire central London in preparation for the King and Queen, but this time, maybe to avoid so much disruption to everybody, they've just kept it a little bit shorter. Queen Elizabeth II will not be massively recognised in this ceremony. I'm sure she will be in the thoughts of the people watching, and also her family, who are still grieving the loss of someone who was served so well for 70 years. I believe that when they have their private dinner, when they have moments the night before, that the family will address the memory of the Queen. But we're moving on. This is what this ceremony is about. It's about the continuity of having a new monarch after so many years. One thing we did see on Thursday was what I thought was a nice touch, was that the Prince and Princess of Wales actually travelled on the Elizabeth line through London to attend an engagement in Soho, where they went to a pub and helped out with local businesses that are going to be very busy at the coronation. So I thought it was a nice touch that they caught the Elizabeth line, which was obviously named after Queen Elizabeth herself, and that she opened last year. Well, the specific journey of the procession that we'll see on TV, or the hundreds of thousands of people that come out onto the streets to watch it, will start from the main gate at Buckingham Palace, and it will head past Victoria Memorial and up the Mall. When it gets to Admiralty Arch, it will hang a stiff right at Trafalgar Square, come down Whitehall, past the Cenotaph and 10 Downing Street and into Parliament Square, and then it will arrive at Westminster Abbey, where the coronation ceremony will actually take place. And of course, on the way back, No surprises there. We take the same route. We go from the Abbey all the way up back to Trafalgar Square and back into Buckingham Palace. So I've been very lucky to actually spend a bit of time with the Gold State coach, and it's been called a bone shaker. The Queen, the late Queen Elizabeth, actually called the ride horrible. She was on a much longer journey. This may be a reason why they've actually shortened the journey this year. But this is built in 260 years ago. It's covered in gold leaf. It weighs 4 tons and it needs 8 horses to pull it. It can travel only 4 miles an hour. One of the problems with this is also stopping it. Getting it started is obviously a problem, and getting the horses all in line to pull this 4-ton vehicle. But it will have to slow down and stop very slowly and be controlled by some very experienced and very skilled horsemen. Now, Charles will be travelling one way in a Diamond State carriage, which is a lot more comfortable. It has air conditioning and hydraulic suspension, whereas the Gold State coach has leather straps that have existed for the last 260 years, which give a very bumpy ride. You see, King Charles, among many titles he took over, he also took over Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces when Queen Elizabeth II died. So the Armed Forces will have an incredibly important role in the coronation this year. The military have been practicing so hard for the coronation this year, and there will be 7,000 servicemen out on the streets. They've been working to make sure that they can filter through London in the tight streets and really perform not only their marching but also their marching songs as they're walking down the Mall and Whitehall.
In recent times, this is the biggest event. I don't like to compare anything with Her Majesty's funeral, but it is twice the size of Her Majesty's funeral, so I think that probably gives an idea of the scale.
So every regiment from across the British Army is represented, every unit from across the Royal Air Force and the Royal Navy is represented, and every country from across the Commonwealth is either represented by their own armies or defence forces, or indeed by their national flag on parade.
I've been involved in planning for this for 6 months. We're on parade for 6 hours, so that's around 1 month of work has gone into every hour that we're on parade, so a lot of work.
We haven't seen a coronation for 70 years, so therefore the starting point to design this has been quite a challenge. So we've had to go back into the history books to make sure that what we're doing is correct and it follows precedent.
Pretty much on parade today you've got a large contingent from the Royal Marines, a large contingent from the RAF Music Service, and if there's an army musician serving, they are on parade today, so you've got all the army musicians on parade.
He served for a number of years in the Royal Navy as a young man, including commanding HMS Bronington, so has a real close understanding of kind of who we are, what our business is about. And his support for us and his interest, importantly, also in our families, has endured through all of those years, just as the example set by the late Queen before him.
Today you saw the household procession. There's procession group 8, so there's 7 other groups out there. But the household troops historically guarded the sovereign, the foot guards, household cavalry. We continue that role today.
We're traditionally the sovereign's personal bodyguard and escort. On state ceremony and public duties, we provide his mounted element, so you'll see 4 divisions of household cavalry escorting him. So 2 divisions of the Blues and Royals in blue tunics and 2 divisions of the Life Guards in red tunics.
I think there's 2 ways we demonstrate ourselves as military: the operational side, which is ongoing around the world at the moment, and then the ceremonial side, which is what we'll see on the coronation. And I think that's what the country expects to see, but the colour, the spectacle and the precision that we bring.
I think events like this is what sets us apart from the rest of the world. It's a chance for Britain to demonstrate its pomp and ceremony, but also to retain some of its heritage, its culture, for what it stands for, and also to demonstrate what we represent around the world. I think that's demonstrated by the Commonwealth nations that have joined us and taking part in this ceremony, that it's not just about us, it's about everybody else that supported us throughout the years.
So those soldiers on parade will be representing themselves, but also the proud traditions of all of their regiments that they are on parade with.
So my grandfather from the Isle of Mull was in the Scots Guards, and he was on parade for the Queen, late Queen Elizabeth II's coronation in '53, and his father was on parade for George VI's coronation in '37. My mother's side, an ancestor carried the Sword of State for Charles II's coronation, and I'll be carrying the King's colour for Charles III's coronation. When the King leaves Westminster Abbey, I'll be leading the column of the sea of red tunics that you'll see walking down the Mall. I'll be hopefully at the front of that, down to Buckingham Palace, just behind the King.
It's very special for me for two reasons. Firstly, that 6 months of planning that I've put into this, and secondly, on the day I have the honour of leading the coronation procession, so I'll be on a horse at the front, leading the procession and His Majesty the King back to Buckingham Palace. So a very, very exciting moment.
As well as the incredible scenes that you'll see on the streets of London, people will also be treated to a spectacular RAF flypast in the skies.
Visual!
It's one of the biggest flypasts we've put together, and it's entirely appropriate. Such a special occasion, His Majesty the King and our Commander-in-Chief's coronation, where it's only right that we put together a tri-service flypast of this nature on the 6th of May.
In the middle, a Wildcat, and then to the left and the right, the Apache Echo. We then go to the Commando Helicopter Force with another Wildcat and a Merlin.
36 aircraft today, practicing for His Majesty the King's coronation, which will grow to 68 aircraft when we deliver the flypast for our Commander-in-Chief on the 6th of May.
We now go back in time from the Royal Air Force Battle of Britain Memorial flight, based at Royal Air Force Coningsby. We have the Lancaster. Next, from Royal Air Force Brize Norton in Oxfordshire, in the middle the A400 Atlas, either side C-130J Hercules.
There are a huge number of air bases across Lincolnshire that support the Royal Air Force. Aircraft will be flying from a number of those, including Royal Air Force Coningsby with the Typhoon and here at Royal Air Force Cranwell. But actually, the flypast will be launching from bases across the United Kingdom. They'll be forming over the North Sea, getting together in order, ready to deliver that spectacle on the 6th of May.
In the lead, the Poseidon Maritime Patrol aircraft, firing on the RC-135W rivet joint.
It was daunting initially, but I've been humbled and it's with huge pride in the way the team have come together, put the planning together. I think you've seen that play out today in the practice with 36 aircraft, and we will build on that success as we prepare for the 68 aircraft flypast on His Majesty the King's coronation on the 6th of May.